Hi, this is Dr. Corey Stack. I have my liked songs on YouTube, I think, because I was trying to organise a kind of a social, kind of to tackle social isolation with an event. And in fairness, a particular minister was helpful to me, but like I didn't, I couldn't move it forward because I didn't have the funding, So I'll have to give this person credit, decent person. Anyway, the thing is that I like to give credit where credit is due, and it's a pity it isn't in the other direction. Would you not agree? So my title for this video, Ireland, of course, it was Ireland is a nation of begrudgers. There's always one or two good at the end of every line. That's so we can't. Write them off, all out the same brush, target them all with the same brush. Although sometimes, in conversations that may appear, no. There's always, there's always good people out there, and we want them to come out in favour of us. That's what we want. We want the good people on our side, and the more good people on our side, the better people will become. You see, they'll copy them rather than copy the other ones. I mean, not copy them, but they'll emulate them. They'll respect them. They'll see that they have the values, not the other side, and they'll go for that side. So this is what I'm all about, trying to do all these kind of multiple things. So the title of my video here is a request for online access or fair coordination of presidential election nomination meetings. So I want to talk about this because this is a major issue for the candidates. We're being expected to be in 10 different counties in the same day on the 22nd, and it's impossible. It's absolutely impossible. And we're given 5 minutes. They're all saying that they don't coordinate, yet they're all doing the 5 minutes. And there's one county, one county in particular that gave us 10 minutes in the last week, and told us that how the voting structure works and all of that, and gave us sufficient time, and then everybody else doing 5 minutes. So sure, by the time you sit down in 5 minutes, you're exhausted. So the 5 minutes suggests a real block, whereas 10 minutes is a chance and 5 minutes is a block. So in my opinion, that's how I see it, because I can't cover all I want to say in 5 minutes, but I can get a good 10 minutes is fair. So that's fair. So good morning, and thank you for this opportunity to speak. My name is Dr. Cora Stack, as you well know from looking at me. I'm known. I have to wear a wig or something, or I won't say anything else. And thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm addressing you today in relation to the forthcoming presidential election. I'm not speaking. I'm speaking on behalf, not so much on behalf, but I'm representing nominees who wish to participate fairly and openly in vital democratic processes. So any nominees that would come forward in the future, say, that would be in my position. I'm trying to ensure that what happened to me won't happen again in the future to other nominees. As you know, county councils across Ireland will soon be holding special meetings in September, particularly in September coming up now, that there have been huge amounts of special meetings with numerous meetings in the same day. And if you're living in a remote area like I am, you're nearly have a car crash or a heart attack, and you're not able to speak. You're just not able to perform at your best when you're under that extreme pressure. And I mean, Galway City Council were giving out saying we were showing disrespect. I mean, we were expected to be in Tipperary and Wicklow, and I would have liked to have attended Galway City Council because of my affinity to Galway, but I couldn't go to Tipperary and then Wicklow, and all of that. And I think Galway City Council, could have shown a little bit of reciprocity in saying and understanding how difficult it was for us, rather than say we were showing them respect. I really wanted to make Galway city and county, but I was in other places and I just couldn't physically do it. So, I apologise to the city council members and to the Galway county. I would have loved to go to Galway because it's the fabulous place, as everybody knows. So, as you know, county councils across Ireland will soon be holding special meetings in September. This is now coming up on the 17th and the 22nd, so we're down to the wire to consider presidential election nominations. These meetings represent one of the most important gateways to democratic participation in our republic. However, as the schedule currently stands, a serious difficulty has arisen. So let's identify the problem. At present, many councils are holding their meetings on the very same day, often at overlapping times. For example, on Monday the 22nd of September, several neighbouring counties are scheduled to meet in the morning and early afternoon, or even to meet within an hour of one another. And this is an issue I had yesterday. I mean, I couldn't even perform for one county, because of the distress of this. Having the meeting so close together that it was impossible even to make both, or if you met one, you were, it's like being asked to go to 10 lectures in a day in 10 different counties. I mean, if you're a conscientious student, you'd feel guilty, be made feel guilty. That's the way it is, which I always was. This makes it impossible for nominees, members of the public, or interested observers to attend more than one meeting in person. The result is a barrier to participation, an obstacle to transparency, and to many it creates the unfortunate impression that our democracy process has been constrained rather than opened up. In a healthy democracy, access should be broadened, not restricted. The scheduling of these meetings, although perhaps unintended, now I know certain counties, certainly, there wasn't any, wrongdoing. I get a great sense of that. But I can't understand how they're all doing this 5 minutes, if there wasn't some, kind of discussions between them. It's the 10-minuters, the 10 people, the 10 minutes, for example. I won't mention one, in the Pale, that they certainly weren't copying the 5 minutes. They were fair, much fair. Risks undermining public comments in fairness and inclusive. So I'm going to try to model my argument on the 10-minute model. I'm going to ask, can that be modelled here at the last minute? In the interest of openness and democratic integrity, I am respectfully, on behalf of everybody, because I know somebody benefited from my securing an online deal with Leitrim, and this person had her ducks in a row because she had her seconder and she had all her work done. But I wasn't thanked by this person, even though I was the one that secured the online deal. I mean, that's the way it is. You take, and then the person that does all the giving gets nothing in return, not even an expression of gratitude. I'm respectfully asking councils to consider 3 modest but essential measures. First, that each council provide reliable online access to its special meeting at this time, whether this is through live streaming or official recording. It would allow nominees, citizens and observers from all over Ireland to follow proceedings regardless of geography or personal circumstances. Second, that future scheduling of special meetings be coordinated between councils to avoid unnecessary overlap. Where possible, meetings should be staggered, one in the morning, perhaps another in the afternoon, so that participants in the public can engage with more than one discussion in a meaningful way. And third, that a minimum of 10 minutes be allocated to each nominee for the representation, to make a short representation before the council. This is not an excessive demand. It is reasonable and a democratic measure that gives every nominee an equal chance to speak, to be heard, and to present their vision to elected members. Why this matters? These requests are not about convenience. They are about democracy itself. By adopting these measures, councils could send a strong signal that our republic values fairness, inclusivity and transparency, that the voices of all nominees will be heard equally, and that our institutions are committed to empowering citizens, not discouraging them. Now, I also made a point that we should have written procedures, or I don't like the word procedures, more or less guidance, as to if you are going, the citizens and information are very good on many things, but there really isn't guidance on how to, get your nominator. How should that process be? Should the nominator, if we were to be very fair to all candidates, should the process of selecting, proposing and selecting a seconder be left until everybody has spoken, so that nobody could secure, the nominator and seconder prior to everybody speaking? So that which is clearly given, key candidates a huge advantage here. as I can see. Because, it's very clear that the people who've got through so far have had their nominations before the meetings. And surely, if it was proper, if things were done properly, the nominations should come from the floor after everybody's presentation was heard. I think that would be fair in terms of process. Just looking at what I can see here, that, the nominations were all lined up. And I've agreed to nominate this one. So I think in the interest of fairness and transparency, nobody should be should be trying to canvass because with being public service and everything, it's dodgy. It's not good accountability. It would be better if they, well, of course, people say they could do it beforehand, but I think procedurally, that it shouldn't be. I think there's an issue here. There is an issue here. I think it needs to be addressed by the county councils themselves, whether this is the proper process. I don't think it is, because I've been blocked several times. Block, and I'm sure others people are the same. People won't talk to them because other people have got to them before or whatever. I don't know, but I think that the nomination process, the process for nominating a second, should be done, and it shouldn't be secured before the meeting. The people should reserve their position on who they're going to nominate, and they shouldn't say anything until after the meeting. I think that would be that would be fairer, and it would be more democratic. This is when all candidates are considered, rather than doing it in advance when they don't know anything. I think in Kerry they were saying, we didn't know any of the candidates. I'm sure people didn't know the process, and really, is that the right process anyway? That they should be canvassed, and then other people that didn't have the money to drive down to Kerry from Derry should be excluded from the process like that. So I'm asking that point also, I should have mentioned, should be considered, for fair and transparency. These requests are not about convenience, they're about democracy itself. By adopting these measures, councils will send a strong signal that our republic values fairness, inclusivity and transparency, that the voices of all nominees be heard equally, that's what I'm saying, and that our institutions are committed to empowering citizens, not discouraging them. At a time when public trust in institutions is fragile, simple steps like this, online access or better coordination, fair speaking time, greatly strengthen confidence in local government and in the presidential nomination process. Therefore, my closing appeal to you is as follows. I respectfully request from the county councils on two key points that we have reliable online access be provided for the special meetings on the 19th and the 22nd of September. On the 17th, Wexford and Waterford, you couldn't actually go from Wexford to Waterford because they're an hour and a half apart, and the meetings are an hour. The meetings start an hour in between. It's the perception of that. It's really very poor perceptions between two neighbouring counties that it's impossible to go from one to the other. Why couldn't Wexford have had their meeting in the morning and Waterford have the meeting in the evening? It beggars belief, really. It gives a really poor perception. I have great time for people in Wicklow, and I have great time for people in Waterford for various reasons, but I won't go into it. But I have not great time for this timetable, that's for sure, because you're left in a terrible situation. Will future schedule and allocation of presentation time be adjusted to accommodate those fair and reasonable requests? And another person made the point of view about disability, access for disability. That there wasn't great access for disability. People would maybe on wheelchairs in some of the chambers, and that's a fair point as well. We have to be, if we're to talk about inclusion, we have to, include everybody. And so I'll just mention that point. Somebody else mentioned that, and I thought it was a fair point. The Presidency of Ireland belongs to the people. The process of electing candidates should therefore be open, transparent and accessible to all by making these small but significant. I always think about the small, if you keep doing it incrementally rather than these major changes, you can create major change through small incremental changes, and then testing them bit by bit, or how are they working, rather than a major change and then collapse, the thing. Small change, check, is it working, and then move to the next, check, is it working, get the feedback, so on. Councils can ensure that this year's process reflects the very best of our democratic values. Finally, I want to thank you for your attention, for your service, and for your commitment to fairness in this most important of democratic responsibilities. And just my name is Dr. Corey Stack, PhD. I'm winner of the 2025 Ramanujan Memorial. He was a Nobel Prize winner for physics. I'm the only Irish person, the first Irish person to be honoured in this way for excellence in academic leadership. So that's my would you call that governance policy from my years of experience in governance? Yeah. There's a lot in that. There's a lot of brain power gone into that, and I was up all night, thinking about this in the last few days. So I think that's as good as you'll get. So there you go, and thank you very much for listening. And I hope, that I'm not campaigning on either LinkedIn or my Facebook because of conflict of interest issues or worries about that. So I'm doing it from here where I have very few viewers. So perhaps maybe one or two more will arrive in the next few days. So thank you very much, and wishing you all the best. And I'll have to think about it. I'm really interested in this concept of legal capture, and it's fun. I have a great paper on it there, and a great video on it. I have a brilliant video on it on legal capture, and it's called Justice Denied is Freedom Denied. And it's absolutely brilliant. I'm really proud of it. I think it's one of my best papers ever, because as my university professor, Professor Sean Tobin, said to me in my last conversation, Cora, I don't think you should have done mathematics. I think you should have studied law. And I said, well, it's a bit late now. Well, here we are. I'm here now, and he saw the legal talent in me, and I'm certainly I said, we didn't have it in our family. We didn't have law in our family, and everything was a closed shop in law in those days. So I never even thought I'd have such a phenomenal legal brain. I didn't even know I had it in me. Well, here it is. Not only that, but it's as fair as you'll get, as straight as you'll get, within the limit of my powers. Thank you very much.